Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Michael's Corner. I am interview. I'm interviewing one of my good friends in wrestling, Gary Littlewolf. Um, Great guy, great human being. You know, we go way back,
Very
and
way.
yeah. So, before I start off the interview, I just want to take a moment for those you guys that listen to my interviews. Make sure you follow me on social media: Facebook, Michael's Corner; Twitter X will be at Michael Cam; YouTube it will be Michael's Wrestling Channel. And you guys can follow me on those social media platforms. Now, without further ado, let's get the interview started. So, Gary,
Oh, bonjour, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I've been wanting to interview you for the longest.
Longest time I believe was in Wadena, Minnesota, when
Oh,
I read the executioner. Right?
yeah. And oh my goodness.
I was just showing some
Um,
friends a match on YouTube. I was showing them that match. I said, "This is who we're going to be talking to and having our discussion with." And we've been waiting for that long. You know,
yeah. And now it's finally happened.
finally, brother. Appreciate this.
Oh
So I'm
my
very.
God. Yes, yes. It's my
Michael,
pleasure.
Michael, if I can just share this with you real quick, because seriously, it's so great and it's great honor because someone when you have that history in your pro wrestling like you do, and you know wrestling in and out of the industries and stuff, and then especially all the people you've gotten to meet and interview. I
Mhm.
mean, you like I said in that post was you've taken your dream and you made it happen,
Yeah,
and that's great for people to see and know, because that's what us wrestlers do. We take that dream to become a wrestler. We go to the train camps. We get signed with promoters or work for promoters. If we make it to big time, we make it. But this is where we're at today. Especially for myself. But I'm very honored. I'm very appreciative because, like I said, we've been planning. We've been trying to do this for a long time. You know,
yeah. Long time.
long
And
time.
it's finally happened.
Yeah,
And you have a quite a bit of story, because I can't wait to hear it because my goodness, you're one good wrestler. For those of you guys who don't know Gary Littlewolf, he's one of the best wrestlers in Minnesota in
I
the
appreciate.
mid.
Yeah,
So I have filmed some of his matches on my YouTube
yeah,
channel.
yeah,
You got to go way.
yeah,
Good thing I have a playlist, so
yeah,
you just have to go way
yeah.
down. So I gotta ask you, how did you get your start in wrestling? I am dying to hear this. I think most of my YouTube audience, my
Yeah.
Instagram audience,
Yeah.
everyone wants to know, how did you get your start in wrestling?
Honestly, just growing up as a pro wrestling fan, we weren't able to watch pro wrestling up until AWA, WCCW, and WWF at the time. Those. We're just watching on TV, but um, just having that one day and that one moment that happened was in my hometown, Cass Lake, Minnesota, at the Cass Lake Legion Bar, and I had no idea that my cousin had started his own promotion in our hometown. And me and my cousin, we grew up together. We had that dream of being pro wrestlers together, but I didn't know that he took the time and effort to make his own promotion. So he was working in areas of like Akeley, Minnesota, Walker, Minnesota, Cass Lake, Minnesota, Bemidji, Minnesota, and he was trying to get shows there. Well, the day that I was working as a bartender, I had just got done working, and my cousin was setting up his promotion, And just out of coincidence, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna stay and I'm gonna watch a show, you know. But when his referee didn't show up, he didn't have a referee. I said, you don't have a referee? I said, I'll definitely try it. Let me give me a shot. Let me be a referee. Let me help you out. Let me get you a promotion, you know, make you up, you know, all this happen, you know, for you. So I became the referee for that event. And during that event, I had a match that happened where one of the wrestlers was very upset with me the way the match happened, and he challenged me to a match. So I accepted the match. Unfortunately, I lost, and he won. But that was my breakthrough. Was right off the bat. Was there was no training. There was man, I didn't have a whole lot of time to go through anything. But for this guy to challenge me for my first match as a referee, and then and to wrestle that 10-minute match that we did, and to hear the crowd, the crowd took to it, and to hear my last name getting chanted the way they did, it just started that fire for it. So I started pro wrestling with them. I signed my contract with them. I trained with them. I worked with Charlie Norris. That was my first trainer, and I worked with him for 6.5 months. But at the same time, I worked a lot of events every month, and I would wrestle 3 matches a night. I'd do a singles match, a tag match, and a battle royal at the end. So that was my first few years in pro wrestling in a circuit. But at the same time, when you're getting introduced like yourself, like how your trail came about being in independent pro wrestling, that's what was so attractive about your career, about how you got your start, and it's the same way, because when you get to go to those shows and you get to be, and live those dreams like that, it's something that you want to share with people, and that's what one thing that you've been able to do for a lot of people in a wrestling community is share that. So when I learned the ins and outs of the ring, I took my training, I learned for 2 years straight. And then I got my break with the Iron Range area through the Burdicks, Dan Burdick, unfortunately in town, Tom Burdick. And so it took a long time to establish myself and get into pro wrestling and do what I did. But to do it for 18 years the way I've done it took a lot, I mean, there's a lot of wear and tear on your body. At the same time, you got to be able to do the job, like yourself. You do all the traveling. You sacrifice everything you can for that promotion, that one chance, and you
Yeah.
want that, you know.
And I can say that for myself too, because even though I'm not, you know, qualified as a wrestler, with me, doing all these interviews, going
Yeah,
to wrestling shows, doing all of this, I'm really sacrificing everything,
yeah.
I'm sacrificing, I have to take time away, because I gotta take care of my dad because my dad will be, in fact, he's gonna be 73 this year in
Yeah.
March. So I'm taking care of my dad, and it's like every time I get ready to leave and whatnot, I was like, Dad, are you gonna be okay? Are you gonna be all
And
right? Because
good at
he's
it.
type 2 diabetes. So I gotta make sure, he's taking his
You're
medication.
always always willing to sacrifice that travel and that time. And then when you would show up at those shows, and when you go through what you're going through in your personal life and home life, and you're enduring that, and especially to not give up. That was one thing that I give you praise for, because you never gave up on it. You stuck with what you wanted, and that's
Yeah,
as a warrior, is what gets you done. That's how you say
yeah,
it in our done Anishinaabe languages will get you done. So that's what I would tell people along my journey. My wrestling journey was about you was this is will get you done. This is one of the guys that knows the business inside and out and knows the sacrifices, because it takes a toll on your home life and your personal life. But when you make it that time, and I got to see a lot of your interviews, and I admire that, because you know your history, you know who you're talking to, you're not rambling off on something. You know what you're talking about and what you wanted out of them. So
yeah. And
anytime,
like after all the interviews that I did over the years, we never got I never got a chance to do an interview with you because
yeah,
we just been waiting it's like when's the time when the time is right, because I'm interviewing all these wrestlers and legends and Hall of Famers, and I was
Yeah,
like, oh my God, I'm
but you're
so
also up and coming stars though. You're also giving that notoriety to the up and coming stars. Is that when you take that time to interview them and you're giving that exposure and that time for them to, on your social media like this, because it gets the world to see who they are as a pro wrestler and everything. Because like yourself, you're taking your time to do the work. And
yeah,
when you commentary, like I was showing my friends here tonight, that match down in Wadena, Minnesota, against the Executioner.
mhm,
Somebody had asked me about that event, right? And they're asking questions. So me and the Executioner, that in picture Shakur night at Wadena, um, we both our opponents didn't show up, right? And we had to face off against each other because the promoter's like, we need to fill this match up, right? Can you wrestle this guy? And I said, yeah, I will. I'd go back down. So he did the same thing, him and a dragon. And when we wrestled that match and we took it to a limit like that, right? And we sustained our injuries, we took our hits. I mean, man, that was a brutal match. I mean, we're just watching it. I was getting little flashbacks of the pains, of, when you see those, but at the same time, you're appreciative because when I hear your voice in the background, I was like, that's my bro. That's Michael. So I always tell people that's Mike right there. So we'll watch you on YouTube during your interviews. Yeah.
and and that's what some people don't know. Some people don't know it's actually me in the background, and I one one subscriber or one of my YouTube audience made a comment on one of my videos stating that who is this? Who is screaming and yelling? Who's this big fat black guy and
Yeah. I remember
whatnot?
the situation. I remember that was social media. Yeah. I remember
And
that.
I said, I wanted to respond back to them, but they just said it in a way that was,
Very derogatory way and disrespectful way. Yeah.
and it
No.
was
Yeah.
respectful. It's like anybody who calls me body shames anybody.
Yeah.
You don't, they don't deserve the attention. I
Yeah.
don't even give them any attention. The best thing I do? Just delete those comments and I'll use that as motivation.
Yes, you do. And every day you post
And
something. So
that's how I'm going to get better at
yeah,
these interviews. And that's the reason why Michael's Corner is actually getting bigger
very
than
big. Yep.
any than any other podcast out there. You
Yep.
know, I give respect, like guys like Indie Talk or State of Pro Wrestling. I give
Yep.
respect to them because they're trying to be like they're trying to be like me and whatnot. But
Yeah. But I
but
mean,
you know what?
that's
I'm the
one.
only
You know
I'm the
your. You know your.
podcast out there.
Like
I can
was it MEW down in
yeah,
cities,
MEW, yeah.
right? And that Shelton Benjamin is a great athlete,
Hmm.
superb. Main when it came up on Facebook or social media like that, and it was just a few minutes fresh on social media on the feed, and it was you and I that were pretty much the first ones that liked it or tagged it or something. And I was like, this guy likes Shelton Benjamin, and but I know your history. I know your depths of these wrestlers. And to me, and I was talking with somebody, and they were asking me what was one of my top 10 wrestlers that I would say that was underrated and not appreciated in pro wrestling. And Shelton Benjamin is one of them. He was a very an athlete, was not given his time to shine. I
I
still
gotta
think,
get to Shelton Benjamin. And speaking of Shelton Benjamin, he's gonna be at that Midwest All Star Wrestling show in, I believe, March.
yeah,
He's gonna
no,
be in March.
seriously, got a book. You got to make sure you get that interview with him, brother. All right, get that
I,
interview.
yeah, I'm going to because I feel Shelton Benjamin is 48. I feel like he didn't get his due.
Yeah,
I, even though he's been a tag team champion and Intercontinental champion. What else? I
But
just feel he
he
hasn't.
pushed heavyweight champions, and Shelton Benjamin pushed the heavyweight champions. He pushed the big liners, the big namers, and especially when he was not the top card name. When he wrestled Shawn Michaels, when he wrestled The Undertaker, when he wrestled in matches that you just seen him shine. He is one of the guys that, especially because he's the same age as I am. I'm 49, and I felt at times there was two times in my career that I wasn't had interferences basically that took my time of signing a contract, right? So I was going to sign with Impact Wrestling back in 2009, and Sting, which coincidentally he happens to be retiring this month.
Okay.
Him and them, they had contacted me, and we had talked about things back in 2010 or 2009 at a training camp, and they wanted me to work for TNA instead of signing with WWE. And that was when Flair and Hogan and those guys, Jarrett and had control, and Sting and all those guys had control of Impact Wrestling. And Vince was going from the Attitude Era. Remember that, the Attitude Era? So every time I got to work for him, and I went to that training camp, that's who was my mentor, was Sting. And to see that he's retiring this year is awesome to see, because he went through everything he's gone through in his career, and he's always stayed to his word. He's always stuck to his beliefs on everything in the pro wrestling business. And when I had that chance to sign with the TNA at the time, I had something on my own personal life getting away with it, and it was over a contract.
Okay.
And those things kind of happen. So like when you're trying to achieve your dream and get where you got to get, and you constantly put forth that effort every day, like a lot of these guys, and especially in our business in the independent circuit. So like the ones that we know, Steve Stardom is one of them. Superstar Steve Stardom, he's paid his dues and he's got all his respects.
And
You
and that's a lot of wrestler who I want to interview.
got,
Is Steve Stardom. I gotta get him on here as well, because this might be, if I interview Steve Stardom, man, it's gonna probably be a 2 hour interview, because that
you
man
bet.
got a lot of stories.
I remember you guys had some beef with each other at times at events where he was talking this, and you'd fire right back. But here's what I want to do with you, Michael. I want you to do this. If you can get a hold of Steve Stardom, all right, I want to do one last match in my career, and I haven't been able to do my last match yet. But I want my last match with Steve Stardom, superstar Steve Stardom. All right,
Okay.
now, and here's the thing: if you can get a hold of Steve Stardom, I want you to even put the clause on the match. What kind of match in that? All right, me and
And I
Steve Stardom.
gotta be there, and I gotta be there for that match, because I want to see you and Steve Stardom.
Oh,
You
we have a history against each other. We have a very in-depth history about each other, and it'll be great to finish it out like this. Because a lot
Yeah,
of times wrestlers want their careers to go out the way they want to go. And
mhm.
me to look at Steve Stardom and have you in the corner like this, especially Michael's corner on social media, and we've been waiting to do this interview for years, bro. And to see you again, well, it's great to see you though.
Yeah, it's great to see you too.
I'm a
Because
big fan.
last time, I saw you, you probably had long hair,
Yeah,
and now you just cut it short.
I got a little old and I got a little fluffy right now. So I got a little old fluffy. I don't mind showing my little fluffy hairdo right now, but I
Well,
I cut my hair a while back for a cancer patient that was a wrestling fan of mine. So when my wrestling fan got a hold of me, and they wanted to, get together and have a meeting and talk, visit, and I went to the hospital and went to see this kid, and he wanted, like, we were joking around and stuff about things, and he goes, "I want some Indian hair. That's all I ever wanted was Indian hair, like Indian hair like yours." And I said, "All right, so here's what I'm going to do." I said, "Santa Claus is going to bring you your hair." So in 2018, I had went completely bald. That was after actually the last time we seen each other was in those wrestling events in Wisconsin. And
yeah.
yeah, and I shaved my head bald for him.
Oh my God.
completely bald after that. Remember how long my hair was? Yeah, I went completely bald and I'm back now. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, bless your heart for doing that.
Yeah,
Uh,
anything people. Yeah.
and speaking of cancer and whatnot, uh, I'm just glad that some wrestling promo- promotions are doing benefit shows and
Yeah.
what. And I gotta say that Midwest All Star Wrestling is also doing a benefit show towards the end of, I believe it's next week,
Next week. Yeah. Yeah.
next weekend in
Yeah.
Faribault. So, uh,
I've been hoping to do a event or match or anything with Dave, and especially with his promotion because he's a great guy. He's able to everything he's been able to talk. When he says he's going to bring the show to the promotion, and the promotion is going to have a great show, and you go to his show, and that's what you get. Is one of the best promotions ever. You'll see the greatest matches ever, and especially
yeah,
Minnesota. You
yeah.
know, but I
And you
mean,
should get a hold of him. You should definitely get a hold of David because
they
David
talk,
is one of
but
the nicest guys that I ever met in wrestling. He's a good dude.
yeah, he's also a boys Fort native. Wow, he's
Yeah.
one of my tribal affiliations in Minnesota, wow, as we joke around about. But seriously, when you get a hold of Steve Stardom, all right, you let him know that I'll even sign it on a contract for you. Is that I want you to get me and Steve Stardom in a match one last time. I want you to pick the stipulations for that match. All right, because Steve Stardom, he's talked some trash before about you, and we talked about it before. And I like not just besides his big mouth, but somebody needs to put him in his place, right, before his career's over.
Yeah.
All
Yes. Yeah. And and about Steve Sternum, he's like he's like, man, I gotta challenge that Michael Pam. That
right.
son of a bitch. Gotta he gets under my skin every time he comes in. I want a match with him and I want it now. And
Yeah,
I say, you know something? You know, I I rather be an interviewer
yeah,
than a wrestler because you know what? I am 39 and I can't do it.
yeah.
It's like I gotta take care of my dad. Yeah, I don't want my dad to see me hurt like this and whatnot, because then he'll
It's better
be yeah,
if your
he'll
loved one in life.
yeah,
Good to do that, bro. It's good. It's honorable of you to do that, and that's what's part of being a warrior that will get you done. When you're able to do that and live that life like that, that's that honor. But yeah, it's something that in your career when you look at your age and me, I'm 49. I just wrestled last year, right? I came back to do. I was hoping to do my last match against Spider Baby, and so Spider Baby and I we had some beef with each other a while back, right? And he had put on social media about how he had won his championship title and he was bragging on social media about how he was his champion, right? So I said, all right, well, I'll get back out of the retirement kind of phase. I'm going to challenge him. But I did. And when we had our match, we had a in ring function, dysfunction kind of thing happened was some boards planks had broke underneath the ring, underneath the apron. And it made the match very risky. So when the planks had broke in the ring, it was shifting the apron, right? So you couldn't really pick somebody up and try to slam them on it because you don't want to cause that kind of injury on somebody, right?
yeah,
Because that
yeah,
you're not trying to ruin their career. You're trying to. So we did as best as we could in this match with that kind of a ring condition that we had, but unfortunately, I lost. I take my loss and I brushed it off. But what was upsetting for me was I knew that we could have a very great potential match, but we had a technical error in it, right? And it would be great to have just a straight up match with him again. but my body at 49 years old in the condition that it's in, especially even like I was just talking, kind of exchanging comments with Steve Stardom before about this was, if I was going to have one last match, it would be with him. You know,
And I would
so
like to see that match. I
bro,
would
you
like to see that match.
hook it up. You hook it up, bro. All right, and you tell whatever kind of match you want. You want a last standing match? You want a cage match? Whatever kind of match. How about a bull rope match with Steve Stardom?
Yeah.
Whatever match, right? I'll guarantee you.
That, yeah,
All right.
Steve Stardom. That's Steve Stardom. Him and I, we got so much history. He want, yeah, he's been bad mouthing me a
Oh, yeah.
little bit. Kayfabe bad mouthing me.
Yeah.
So
Here's
I gotta,
I
I
look
gotta
back on
put this
the
place.
moment, right, Michael, was when Muhammad Ali told Mike Tyson to knock somebody out from right because of what happened in Muhammad Ali's match with Joe Frazier. I think it was Frazier or somebody, And Mike Tyson, no, Larry Holmes, and Muhammad Ali asked Mike Tyson, knock the shit out. Sorry, knock him out, right? And
Yeah,
Mike Tyson,
you can
uh,
cuss. I don't care.
Mike knocked the heck out of him.
Mm-hmm.
And when I heard Steve Stardom talking a lot of trash towards you, and how times he would sit there and say, you know what, somebody's got to put Stardom in his place. I thought, you know what, here, let's do this, and let's do this way. But we couldn't get that time in that interview in, so let's do it now. I may be old and busted up, and Steve is still old and busted up, but let me tell you what, he's still in the ring. I'm still able to get in that ring. So you make stipulations on the match for him. You tell him, hey, I want a match with you and Mr. Littlewolf. And this kind of,
Yeah.
let's see if he
So,
can back. Let's see if he can run his mouth off after that. All right.
yeah. But first off, I gotta see if I can get him on Michael's court first and foremost,
Yeah.
and then, because Steve started on mine, we got a lot of history.
Oh yeah. How about a
And
hair?
he has a lot of stories to tell.
How about a haircut match?
Oh my God! Yeah, he cut
Yeah.
that ratty ass hair up there.
Yeah. Always trying to act like he's Shawn Michaels or like a little glamour boy, and he's with a sun. I think
Yeah.
he drank that fire water to sit there and think that he was something. I mean, he's
Oh.
always himself in the mirror, right? Well, let's
Mm-hmm.
put him in the corner, Mike. Let's put him in Michael's corner. Get a match booked with him. All right, and we'll do this.
Yeah,
All right.
I'll put his ass in the corner, all right.
I know you've been waiting for a long time, brother.
I've been waiting for a long time.
About time that Michael gets his pay, right?
Yeah, yeah. So,
So I
okay.
gotta
I
ask you.
gotta ask you this. I gotta ask you this, my friend.
Let me ask you. I want to know. I want to know on my personal. How did you get into pro wrestling so die hard the way you have? Because I mean, you have such a great history in it. What got you started?
Probably told this story on one of my interviews or one of my episodes, but I'll tell it again. Okay. First off, okay, I'm gonna tell the story.
Yeah.
And then it was one of my coworkers many years ago
Yeah.
had asked me like if I was available or whatnot to go to a wrestling show in Lester Prairie, Minnesota. You know where Lester
Yeah.
Prairie is.
Yeah.
So my coworker of mine asked me if I wanted to go. And I was like, let me check, let me consult with my parents and get back to you. And next thing you know, I got back with my coworker and I told her, yes, I'll be willing. Yes, I'm free to go to a wrestling show and whatnot. So I went to a wrestling show in Lester Prairie, Minnesota. It was kind of snowing. Now, this was back in February of 2011. Almost, oh my God,
Wow.
almost 13 years ago, Gary. So it was kind of snowing outside. Wasn't snowing that bad. So anyhow, I got to this venue. That's where I met Ann Brookstone,
Oh yeah,
Starla Cass Strong, Paul Brewski, Eric
yeah,
Lockhart. Um, actually, when I first, speaking of Eric Lockhart, I interviewed him like a week ago.
yeah. I seen that. Yeah, he was at an event that was at a long time ago with N&M up in Iron Range, up in Hibbing actually, and they wrestled at in Hibbing, Minnesota. That was my first time seeing this young kid come in, and he had something that was so unique about him that you knew he was going to be a superstar if he could get the chance and given the opportunity by who I'm talking about. I think if the bigger promotions actually took time to look at local talent like that, but he's one of them that has something that can really bring it.
Yeah, yeah, and you know something? You just gotta watch that interview, watch that episode because it that was probably one of my best interviews that I did. You know, that I did with Eric Lockhart, and he just looked. He has gotten so much better in the ring.
Yeah, over
I
the last, he's
saw
gotten
him in
he's
person.
one of the most dynamic drop kicks that I've seen in years. And Red Lightning was the last one I kind of consider was Red Lightning in our circuit in our business. But Lockhart has that drop kick that would just nail you, and it was one of those drop you don't forget. Because when
Yeah.
you get
And
he can
speaking of Red Lightning, I also gotta get him on here. Cause
yeah
man, I gotta get like just like some wrestlers who I haven't interviewed yet that I need to just get them on here, sit down, let's have a
yeah
little just give me an hour of your time, or hour and
yeah
a half, you
yeah.
know.
Red will talk with you. He's a great guy. He's a great competitor. Especially getting back in the business. He's one of the all-time greats in this business.
Yeah,
And
I gotta get a hold of him. I
uh,
gotta get a hold of him on Facebook.
if you see my
Yeah,
one, there's a footage of me in my a band called Dante's Lounge, and the guy that made my Facebook page in 2011, and we were down in the cities a lot doing wrestling events, WXW, and we were like would be Maple Grove. We were in Rosemont. We were in a couple other places. We did a pro wrestling event for Prince one time, and those circuit leagues that back then, those independent circuit leagues, if those promoters were able to get like that talent out there more, back then to now, um, it would be so great to see these guys get their opportunity. Because back then, we go to every show every week, every month or something, and wrestle those kind of matches. So to see guys, especially like Garrison Creed, Red Lightning, unfortunately, yeah, Big Mo Steve Stardom. But I mean, you get a lot of those guys that are going through MAEW right now. I mean, you see how he's booking these guys, and he's making sure they got guaranteed career at something. So that's what you want to be able to do is push that, and with people like you, and especially like having you in their corner, and that's what I love about how you came up with Michael's corner, is you get him in the corner. But I mean, to have you right there to do the interviews is awesome.
I want to say, there's a lot of people been asking me, what did I came up with? How did you came up with the name Michael's Corner?
Yeah,
So, make a long story short, you know Kurt Alcohol, right?
yeah,
That guy in the wheelchair.
yeah,
Um, one day he packed me up from my house, from my house.
yeah,
Um, we was going to like a Burger King or something to,
yeah,
something to
yeah,
eat and whatnot. Because I was his assistant and he was the owner of M MEW at the time.
yeah.
So
And that's
so
where we all, yeah,
so I I he asked me, you should give your show a name, you
Yeah.
know. And I told him, how about Michael's Corner? And flat out, Kurt almost shit on his pants. And he goes, Michael, right idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I ran along with it, and that's how I came up the name with the name of my show,
Yeah.
Michael's Corner.
That
And I
that
did
Ina
every
is one of your first few interviews with some wrestlers. It was at that event that I was at for him when he got a hold of me, and he's like, "Come down to Wadena," and that's where I wrestled the Executioner and the Dragon. That guy was his manager. I remember when you guys, because he had that conversion van. Remember that van in that trailer? And
yes,
he
yes I do.
and when we were in the basement at the Legion there, and he's like, "We got to get this guy, really pushed and get in the spotlight because he's doing a great job at what he wants to do with it, with the wrestling business." And when you have, I mean, in Duluth, Minnesota, a long time ago, they used to have a public access show, and I used to do a regular basis on it. And these guys used to do a show every month out of Duluth. So every so often I do a show with them, and they would be at through the Iron Range to Aiken, Minnesota, Virginia, Hibby, and Keewatin, and that's like it'd be great to have that match with Steve Stardom and Keewatin, by the way. But when you have these promotions and you have people doing what you're doing, and it's great because it helps the business going,
Yeah,
and to get somebody like some of these interviews, I was so shocked that you got these interviews done, and there's wrestlers that you got to interview that I wish in my career that I could even have met, because of travels or whatever the situation was, I couldn't go to that event. But to see you doing pictures and interview with these people, that's where I'm just envious, and I'm so glad that you're able to do that because you're achieving that dream.
yeah,
And yeah, so you get to see that, and it's great to do, have that in our business. So,
yeah, yeah. And
I,
at the same token,
who's
you guys
who's your
willing to,
who's your favorite woman wrestler right now that you want to interview? Because before you said, and I seen that you're good friends with her is ODB, right?
yes,
Who I'm talking about, and she's on Facebook now. And ODB and we had a mixed tag match years ago, and but when you seen what she's going through in her career right now, she's doing great for herself. You know,
yeah. And that's a lot of female who I would like to sit down and interview and whatnot. So ODB, she's a great.
that main one. Who of all time and women's wrestling would you want to interview? Just have that one main great interview with.
Um, it will have to be now. Even though I interviewed Trish already,
Yeah,
even though it's 3 minutes,
I never
I
seen you blush.
want to interview her again for like an hour.
Her Stratus.
Yes,
I seen you blushing when in those pictures.
yes.
Right?
And so now Trish Stratus was on this bad girl tour and whatnot. So she was gonna be at this Twin Cities con in in I believe it was November,
Yeah.
October, November. So
How did it feel to get headlocked by? How did it feel to get put in a headlock by her?
huh?
Didn't she put you in a headlock? How'd that feel? Huh?
Um, actually,
I
Molly
think.
Hart in the hair.
Yeah.
She got she
Yeah.
got ripped.
That one of my favorite ones was Mickey James back in the day. And when she came to Duluth, Minnesota for Heavy on Wrestling, they had Rikishi, Jake the Snake Roberts, and Christy Hemme there. And Heavy on Wrestling was doing a promotion show, and I had a do an interview for the local TV show there, and to meet Christy Hemme and stuff, and we were joking around because she didn't believe me that my last name was Littlewolf. And a lot of they didn't know about the last name Littlewolf, and so my last name is Littlewolf, and we're um, mostly known for boxing in the upper Minnesota Iron Range area because my uncle was a big time boxer back in the 60s, Cedric Littlewolf, and he was a big time boxer. So like when I got into pro wrestling, it was kind of different because I actually got treated differently by my own family. They're like, wait, we're a family of boxers. Why are you going into pro wrestling? But when they seen that I stuck with my last name and my original name, and like we were just watching earlier, was to hear the crowd chant my last name in that first match to this last match, to hear them chant Littlewolf and to keep it going. And I started a Littlewolf pack. I marketed. I knew how to do everything that I had to do to succeed in my business as a pro wrestler, especially keeping a Littlewolf pack going. But to be a pro wrestler and growing up in a boxing background was really a change from a ring to a different ring. So you're going 3-minute rounds boxing. Now in pro wrestling, you have until you got to beat your opponent down, and we don't have breaks. You know that, right? We go all out. In this one match I was just showing somebody, we're out and outside in Key Lawton, 120 degrees rest of the match, and you go through those regiments, But when you go through that, that's what makes you that much better because you take the time, you go and you learn the ropes of that ring. So growing up boxing, I already knew the ring, but to achieve it in pro wrestling and to keep the nuclear native, to keep my last name Littlewolf, and one thing I learned from a situation I was just talking with a friend of mine about was in my training camp times when I wanted to make it big. I went down to the cities. I went down to Rosemont to a training camp that the Gagnos was holding, and that's where they have scouts show up, or people show up and ask you, whoever, whatever. So you work 2 weeks in, then you do another month whenever they call you back, right? So I got an opportunity to go to Montreal and do a training camp up in Montreal, and I went up there. And at that time, when you look at the big time, WWE was making their changes, TNA was making their changes, and you're as a minor leaguer, basically, you're trying to figure out where you go, right? So I go do this training camp up in Montreal, and two of my greatest wrestlers is Sting and Bret Hart, and I got to meet Bret Hart and his family at the airport in Montreal when they're just going on a basic family trip, whatever. But to hear Sting and then be able to hear from Bret Hart himself and talk about contracts and stuff that you go through, because we all know about the Montreal screw job. I had the same kind of situation happen in Duluth one time. I had a Duluth screw job happen with a promoter, and I lost out. But when you learn from these guys and you get the opportunity to learn from the legends, and they will guide you the right way. So I went and did that training camp in Montreal, came back, and I learned one thing is I want to stay true to myself, not true to my character. I want to stay true to my people, my culture, and my ways. Who, if you don't know who the Strongbos are, Chief J. Strongbow, Walt McDaniels, right? If you don't know who Walt McDaniels is, you got to know your wrestling history. Tatanka was one thing, right? Because he could put on the war paint and dance around like a little gimmick. But I didn't want to be that gimmick character. I wanted to be a for real Ogichito warrior that's going to go in that ring and represent my people. So when promoters would have issues with that, they say, I want you to dress up a certain way. I want you to put on that war paint. I want you to go up there and dance around the ring, do the tomahawk chop, and be that cartoon character. I didn't want to be that cartoon character for my pro wrestling career, and I didn't want that for my people. So I bumped heads with a lot of promotions at times, and where they would have issues with me. So they would sign me for a match or two and then just drop me. And it became irritating at times because it was like, come on, if the people want it, give it to them. but don't make a cartoon character. I mean, that'll be like if you show up at the event and make a joke out of it. That's not right to do to you. You give Michael's Corner his respect, his props, and give him his pay, right?
Yeah,
Don't
right.
make it. That'll be like them making it like the Brother Love show. Remember Brother Love? Remember Brother Love?
Brother,
Come on,
yeah.
all right. That'll like them. That'll be like the promoter telling you that you got to show up at an event and you got to be like Brother Love,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then especially in WWE and promotions, you see how a lot of wrestlers will take time to make it their shows on a public show, or like when we're watching Raw, SmackDown, or whatever it is, and they had Shawn Michaels, Chris Jericho, who didn't have a show for at 15, 20 minutes on a live show when they should be wrestling, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they should be doing, is wrestling. But like you said, when you know that your age and you can't be in that ring wrestling, you're going to run your interviews the way you've been running your interviews and doing your history the way you've been doing it because you're great at it. So keep it going. I mean, that's the main thing, is don't let anybody push you in your promotions. Keep it going. You're doing a
Yeah,
great job.
yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
seen some that you just did a great job with, were the questions you'd ask and seeing how they break character. We always like that, like somebody that can break character on us. One of the greatest is Undertaker. Who can break the Undertaker's character when he would sit there in the ring, right? You
Right.
couldn't get to do the spin Rooney. So when you have something like that in your career and time, and you can make it that significant for yourself, that's where it stays true. It stays true as who you are as a pro wrestler, as a fan, even,
From a
because
fan perspective, that's what you're trying to say, right? Yeah.
I like to see
So,
this in Shelton Benjamin, though.
yeah. So I do gotta ask you this question though. Now, and I think I remember this, and I think a lot of fans that remember this. I think this was at a RWA show, Revolution Wrestling Alliance, I
Yeah.
believe. You was in a match with, I forgot who. I believe Steve Sterling. Don't quote me on that. But you were knocked unconscious.
Oh,
Can
there,
you?
that one there, that was Steve Stardom, and we were in that. That's when me and Steve Stardom had that retirement match, and both of us, we were not. No, I mean, Steve Stardom came off a hip injury. I just came off a surgery, shoulder, and a knee injury, and we had that table incident. That's where I got knocked out, and then you can hear you in the background when you said Littlewolf got knocked the f out. You can hear yourself in the background where you see where I got knocked out. Yeah, I was. There's times like that in those matches that will happen, and that there we push each other to the brutal limit. I mean, Morgan was a little upset with us because we got that extreme at times, but when I accidentally grabbed the wrong table, I grabbed a concession big thick table, not the regular tables that we're used to, and I didn't know. And when I brought that table into the ring, I was going to set Steve Stardom up, and all of a sudden he got me back and he put me on that table. And when he came off that top turnbuckle like that and knocked me out, I was out for a good duration. We were out. And it's a good thing when you have injuries.
I was there for that, and let
Yeah,
me tell you, that scared the hell out of me.
yeah. It was a
And
scary.
when the ring announcer was telling people, to go into the bar and whatnot, I
Oh,
knew he was.
you're talking about that one in Rosemont when I got put to that steel post. Yeah,
Mhm.
chair match, or I won't say chair match, but that's what it became. I remember that was in Rosemont, and my opponent, unfortunately, we can't mention names, but my opponent, from the steel beam from the ceiling to the floor in that Legion,
Mhm.
grabbed my head and he just drove it right into the pillar, that pole, and I was knocked out. And what happened was, from my C3 down, in my neck. I got a dislodging in my neck from that, and I was knocked out. And they put me in the ambulance and everything, but I broke out of the ambulance. I wasn't going to go to the emergency room, so I broke out of it. But
Oh
yeah,
my.
that was very
Either way, either way, that was a scary moment, and I'm a. Can I say this? Everyone that's want to or is going to watch this interview, you guys, these wrestlers really do put their bodies and careers on the line
yeah,
just to entertain us wrestling fans. And if it wasn't for us,
yeah.
they wouldn't be here. But the next time you see your favorite wrestlers at a wrestling show, please show them the respect
Yeah.
because you know this can make you or break you, you know. And there's gonna be some and I wanna say this from a perspective, there will be fans that are that can be cruel or disrespectful or
We
they'll on
bad.
social media like, you know,
I'm looking forward to going back to Keewatin here soon because I've been in Keewatin, Minnesota for 14 years straight. Every 4th of July weekend for the wrestling event for either Burdick or whoever promotion was running that promotion for that 4th of July weekend. But when you have like the Undertaker had his streak, or Bill Goldberg had his streak, or whoever had their streaks, in my career, in my circuit that we were at, I went to Keewatin every year for 14 years. I never missed an event, and I always participated in it. But I always got to know the people. I
mhm,
spent time with. Well, I always hung out with everybody. I didn't treat them like they were fans. I treated them like they were family. Because that's who's making us. Making us who we are today, and it's great to go back to the cities and towns and be to still have that love. But you still have haters. You still have that bad crowd that's going to instigate something. And,
mhm.
it's no different. I mean,
It's no, yeah, it's no different, and it's like for me, perhaps, just what happened, and I told this story already,
yeah,
and I'm surprised I didn't tell you this story, but I'm gonna tell you again. I was at Battleground show last year.
yeah,
Okay, I figured if I go back to Battleground show, that was the first time I went to a Battleground show in like 4 years.
yeah,
So I went back, you know, I went to the Battleground show and I saw the match between Bill Williams and Eric Henry. So someone had texted me. So I just looking at my phone because I
yeah,
got to text this person back because I was doing at the same token I was doing business. They're asking me, where what dates you got available, etc., etc. So then, like, after the match, Eric Cannon, oh, you would not believe this. He came up to my face and said, I know you don't like me, but you just you've been playing on your phone, not paying attention to the wrestling action, and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I didn't even respond
yeah.
because what Eric Cannon did, he embarrassed me. He embarrassed me in front of
Right.
all these people.
Yeah,
And I was like, you know what? Let me tell you something. I brought a ticket to see a show.
yeah,
That gives me the right. I could do wherever I want as long as I'm not causing trouble or anything like that or swearing or anything like that. I got up the next day and the promoter and his supposedly brother,
I remember that.
oh, they exposed me on Facebook. They was telling me how they should I should be blackballed from wrestling and blah 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 blah. And Jason York,
Yeah.
York,
Talking about, yeah.
he sent me a message stating that there's people talking about you, and I specifically told him I don't want to see. I
Yeah.
don't have time. I don't have time because all of this is negativity.
Yeah.
I don't have time for that. So he
But
sent it to
when
me.
you put it out there like that, and it brought awareness to a lot of people when they said that, and then when they did what they did to you, it made a fool out of them basically, because
Mhm.
that embarrass you on your own show and treat you like that. That's just an attempt, and for them to really get the backlash that they got from it, that's what they get, because I mean,
Only
a lot of
that,
people didn't care for that BS that they said.
yeah. And not only that, they were also calling out Fred out
Yeah,
because his trailer broke during a blizzard storm. His
yeah,
vehicle broke down, and then his the same naysayers called him out for it,
yeah,
saying that he's money hungry, he's trying to do this and blah 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 blah. That shit made me so freaking mad.
yeah. And what happened was, I mean, it's just a typical highway street kind of accident kind of thing where something happens on when you're driving. You're driving. You just don't take somebody's personal life like that and try to expose it like something like it's out of a money greeting situation.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what's wrong. That's what's wrong with this business now.
Yeah,
People are jumping to conclusions.
yeah,
And you know something? My late friend always says, you know, we really need to stop before we talk.
yeah,
Instead of listening to what people have to say,
yeah.
let's just weed them out.
So this is one part of my career. A lot of people would ask is, why ain't you wrestling at this show, or why ain't you wrestling? And this is like a town or a city away from me, right? So I'll be either down in Minneapolis and there's a show going on wherever. And that's, like I said, those promoters and those other wrestlers that will have that inside personal drama beef with you, that will shut the door on your chance to wrestle for that promoter. But it's when those promoters and those wrestlers really take a good look at it, what they should be able to do is just keep the door open, let that ring be open, and invite the people what the people want, right? So when I had chances to wrestle for promotions, I'd had a wrestler that would tell that promoter, don't book them.
Can I hold that thought?
Yeah,
Because um, I remember talking to Carol Castle about this.
yeah, yeah. We were
You
talking about,
know, and that's another thing.
yeah,
I am getting so sick and tired of these promoters telling these young guys and girls, if you wrestle for this promotion or that promotion,
you're not
then
coming.
you
Yeah,
can't work for me and
yeah,
blah 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 blah. I am so sick and tired of this bullshit. I'm
yeah.
sorry if I'm cussing,
But
but
you're
it
you're
has to come
you're
out.
100% right. You're 100% right on it.
It's
You know,
bullshit.
there's been
And
a few.
it's not, and see, Gary, it's not going to change because
Mm-mm.
everybody is entitled to say whatever.
Yeah,
But you have one promoter that says, well, if you wrestle for so and so, then you can't work for me and blah blah. If you work for me, then you can't go to this show or that show or whatever. I said, you know what? The last thing I heard, it was independent wrestling. And for those of you guys that don't know what independent pro wrestling stands for,
yeah.
each wrestler
Here,
has their own independent
here
company.
I'll share my first 3 years in business, and especially when you work under a promoter. My promoter was my cousin. and he's the same age as me. We went to school together. We had the same dreams, all that crap, in pro wrestling. So when I decided to referee for him and wrestle for him, I wrestled for him. And 4 months later, he comes up with this contract. And this is my own cousin that's going to offer me a contract to wrestle for him. Now, the stipulations was show up, train, set the ring, tear down the ring. Then you get your pay, right? Then you have to wrestle whatever matches goes on, right? So when you look at, and this is why Bret Hart specified, and especially like Sting did at one point, was when you look at those contracts, when my own cousin couldn't hold that, the fact that I was outselling the crowd, every time we had an event, I was pretty much the show. I would be like, I don't know, the highlight of it, right? But I didn't get paid. I didn't get paid by him. So I said, all right, I'm done working for you. I ain't going to wrestle for you. So I went to Duluth. I met the Burdicks. I met with Heavy on Wrestling, David. And they didn't want to, the only one that gave me my shot was Dan Burdick. But when I signed I signed an agreement for him with the Burdicks. That was in an Iron Range area. It was this agreement. That's all it is that contract clause on your injuries. So yeah, I'm my matches for you, get paid, but I'm not going to hold you liable for my injuries because you have to be trained to get in that ring. But when I did, my own cousin got mad and he tried to sue me.
Oh,
right?
What?
And I heard about this. I was like, my own cousin's going to try to sue me over a small time independent contract. And you find out real quick, that's just the word to the grapevine, but legally there's no way they can hold you in any, liability of it, because like you said, it's independent pro wrestling. We're a bunch of minor leaguers trying to get in the big time. So we're going to wrestle wherever we're going to wrestle for, get our chances when we can get them. And if we can achieve it, we're going to achieve it. But when you have promoters that are going to sit there and say, you have to sign a contract to wrestle for me, and you look at the contract, and you're like, okay, well, I'll work with you. But then when they say you can't work with these promotions, well, they're basically saying you can't get more money and make your way in because it's got to be less selfish about it,
Yeah.
and it's cut down.
And that's the thing. And that's the thing that pisses me off. It's just that, it's like, oh my God. They just want you to work for exclusively for them. They don't want to do this or do that because then you make a lot of money and blah, 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 blah.
3 matches a night and not get paid. I had my shoulder dislocated. I had chairs split over my head. I've been through 2 tables at one point where my shoulder was dislocated. My back was messed up, right? And I had to medical coverage, for my injuries, not them. But for them to not to be appreciative of us wrestlers putting that 3 matches a night, 2 matches a night, or whatever they wanted to put us through. We go through the grit of it. And when you have, like, for me, Dan Burdick Sr. and Jr., when they got me, that's why I stuck with them, because they treated me good and they paid me good. Now, their brother, Tom Burdick, who ran WGW, Tom was like a Vince McMahon or Shane McMahon, basically, honestly, in the independent circuit. He was. Everybody knows. He was who he was in WGW. And I worked for him, but I didn't get paid because I didn't need his money. I didn't need his money because I just needed to wrestle for him, because when I go there, I'm making sure my wrestling fans got to see me work in that ring and get them what they want to get, right? Yeah. Like when you learn about merchandising yourself, like you got to get a T-shirt like you got right there. Just put Michael's Corner as a T-shirt, merchandise yourself, because that's how sometimes you got to make your money. Make something that's going to sell for you, and at the same time, those fans something as a keepsake as yourself. Because I still got
and that's what I was thinking about too. Is I'm thinking about getting the Michael's Corner T-shirts and whatnot. I just gotta find who's gonna make them, or if I could just sell them and make good money off of that, then I'll just save it so that when I can order more and whatnot. So yeah,
you're able,
Well,
and you have,
I think also I'm thinking about taking my own, taking some kind of
yeah,
promo photos as well, so that then wrestling promoters can use a graphic of me.
it's basically,
Not necessarily get into the posting, but just use me as a graphic. Say, oh, Michael's gonna be at this show, or Michael's
yeah.
gonna be at that show, and it'll feel so good, like if I was featured, or a promoter can put me on a graphic photo and whatnot.
So basically, what you
That
would have to do is, yeah, you'd have to talk to a promoter, make them a business partner in a sense, with them. And as a business partner with them, is that you guys are going to work out your agreements on everything, and you're going to get what you got to get out of it. But at the same time, market yourself. Because I mean, I would like to have a Michael's Corner sweatshirt. I went and got the shirt right here.
you
It's a
know, you know who's been wanting a shirt for the longest?
Michael's
I
Corner shirt,
heard
autograph on it.
Mama Bear, but Carrie Nelson, she wants a Michael's Corner t-shirt for the longest.
Baseball caps. I did baseball caps. I did winter caps. I did bandanas, folders for school. I marketed myself that way. So when you travel those miles and that promoter ain't going to pay you, you got to pay that food and way back there. And, that's, 8 hours, 10 hours of travel.
Yeah,
And so when you make it to the big time, one thing I was very blessed was when I got to work for TNA and stuff. And to go to those 3 shows I got to work for was just to go there and experience everything the way they do it behind the scenes and the way the business of it goes. So um, you see how it is nowadays, and how strict they are. Um, and one thing, like, and with what you can achieve for everybody is just getting those few promoters that are going to work with you. Like MEA, was it the one that Dave is running with Sheldon? Get a hold of him and say, hey, let's work something out. Because I mean, seriously, I like looking up YouTube and watching your interviews. Let
oh,
alone your interviews are so great in depth. And Trish Stratus was one of them, but I was trying to think of the one that you just did not too long ago, and you got him to just open
Honky
up.
Tonk Man. Yeah,
Yeah,
I am him.
yeah,
Honky Tonk Man. So,
yeah.
all right. To wrap up this interview, where can wrestling fans find you on social media?
Right now, that's all I'm doing is Facebook right now. And unfortunately, my original Facebook that I had for my pro wrestling career and everything, that I had a lot of videos, pictures, everything from my events. The only thing I have is Facebook right now. Um, I'm like you. I'm kind of getting the hang of the high tech stuff. You still, when you get old and banged up, and your brain is taking all these hits and chair shots and whatnot, your brain can get turned into mush.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
mean,
And
yeah,
yeah, I would love to have you back on here because I believe you got more stories to tell me. So
how
I would
outdated.
like to bring you back on here because you got more stories to tell me and whatnot. So
What we were talking about before was we wanted it. We were going to do an in-depth story of pro wrestling one time, and that's what we were talking about. Was you wanted to know what it takes to go from being a starter, and you work your way up, and you really reach out to these promotions, these promoters, to get yourself out there. And when you get out there, how can you maintain it, right? And
yeah,
especially treat it the right way, because we know that one certain promoter that was in Wisconsin there that got in trouble for what they did for, but that there was a damaging shot. But when you take and you rebound yourself, professionally,
yeah. And that's exactly what I did. Back in August, I made one tiny mistake.
yeah,
It was in the match. It was a big match. It was between now these guys are from the Academy School of Pro Wrestling
yeah,
run by Ken Anderson. So there was a big match between Shay Diesel and Nick Fry.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to this match. This was in Stanley, Wisconsin. Um, I made one mistake. Um, I got involved in the match.
Yeah.
I stepped on Nick Fry's hair, and
Actually,
he
really
he
step on it.
like, huh?
It was actually in the way intent.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It's just that I was so in the moment, and it was that one mistake that I made.
Yeah.
And but we all make mistakes,
Yeah.
and sometimes in the biz, sometimes you gotta make the mistakes so
To
that
learn.
you can learn and grow from
Exactly. And then when you posted that, that was so true. Because you said I ain't stop
told
ain't
me.
growing,
Yep, that's what Kurt told me.
Yeah.
Sometimes, actually, I take that back. Eric Marquardt told me this.
Yeah.
He told me this on Instagram.
Yeah.
Oh my God. How can I forget about Eric Marquardt? He's
Yeah.
that told me this.
Yeah.
So,
Keep growing with it, brother. Keep growing with it.
all right, Gary, I would love to do this. I gotta bring you back on here.
Just do me that big favor, brother, and get a hold of that superstar Steve Stardom.
Oh
And you
yes,
let your
got so many damn Facebook pages. I don't know which one to go by.
mm, let me tell you, just pick the match and you tell him. And especially if you can run his mouth, let's see if you can back it up. You tell him that
Yeah.
wolf is right here waiting for him. All right. And you
All
get that
right.
up, brother. All right.
You take care, Gary.
All right. Love you, brother.
Yep.
So, oh,
Yeah, I'll end it.
okay. There we go. Oh,
What a great interview. Gary Littlewolf. Oh my God. Such a nice human being. And I am so glad that I got a chance to interview him. So you guys, let me know in the comments of what you think about this interview because I would love to hear from you, okay? Leave it in the comments and I'll do my best to respond to them. So, and that goes for YouTube as well. Just leave your comments down below and I will respond to you whenever I get a chance. So, okay, you guys take care and I'll see you guys in the next episode of Michael's Corner.